If the drain commissioner could entertain us for a moment. I gave him about an hour before we started the meeting. I said, I probably won't get there to an hour. So he was busy doing stuff, and, well, we went a whole lot faster than we thought we would, so.
For sure. What, 3 minutes?
I'm gonna go for an hour now.
Let's hope not.
You're on the clock.
Okay.
3 minutes.
I can do that. First of all, thanks a million for putting this on the agenda. We had our public informational meeting last July 2nd, Tuesday night. We did it. We'd had the engineer look at possible ways of fixing this, and we wanted to get a feel for the people, whether we were just going to end up in a court battle over this or people wanted something done. We had between 350 and 400 people show up. They did a show of hands, and every one of them wanted something done. So we said, okay, what can we do? They wanted the commissioners to call a special meeting, and I says, well, they meet twice, 4 times a month already. But anyway, Dan Fredericks and Chad Mancarelli went over the plans that they had back in '93 that Progressive A&E did for a possible outlet, presented that, explained that we've got a special assessment district. We have a lake level, a normal lake level of 890.5 with seasonal variations, and I don't know exactly what that means, but I do know that the lake is at 894.1. So they're 3.5 feet over their normal level. And we've got houses that are flooded out, people actually moving out. We've got, I think, 3 county roads that have water on them. And we can't move any further forward. We have, according to the 307, we can't spend over $10,000 a year without the commissioners lifting that limit on us, which is a good checks and balances. But at this point, we know that the project will probably be, Dan presented $3 million. Yes. And one guy stood up, said, okay, 660 homes, $3 million, $5,000 a piece. Why ain't we done? And everybody clapped. So I take that as they're on board. So I asked Doug Kelly to get us this resolution. Denise Metamar in Allegan is going to her board on Thursday to get the $10,000 limit released, and we're going to get moving forward if we can. So
Thanks,
that's
sir.
less than 3 minutes.
Anybody have any questions for Drain Commissioner Dull?
Yep.
Where are you gonna drain it?
The plan that A&E had in '93 was to take it over to a tributary that goes into the Gun River.
So it has nothing to do with private property that people have to, okay.
We will probably have to have easements to get there.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's one of the fun things of ours is trying to figure out how to get something over there and try to get the most beneficial route. We did, Dan and Chad have looked at going down the edges of the roads. It creates an astronomical cost if we stayed in the road right away. It's physically possible, but they said they don't feel that that's a workable solution. It's better to go get easements and work that way.
So the first thing would be to get easements, so you won't be spending a whole lot of extra money if you get a nix on that?
Well, we can always do condemnation if we have to get this thing fixed.
Okay.
Dan and Chad are getting me a list of possible routes. I think they figured 3 of them. Of course, the one we're going to shoot for first is the one where we don't have to go as deep in the ground to get there. And they're going to get me copies of the easement or the easements that they're going to prepare, send them to me, and I'm going to start meeting with property owners and see where we can get the least resistance. So,
Any other questions for?
On the show of hands is fine, but there's how many on there? 600 and some?
660 properties. We had about, I would guess, 350 to 400 people show up. We mailed to every single one of them, and we held it July 4th week thinking, okay, maybe people will come up. It's a holiday week. Maybe they'll come up to our meeting.
You don't think it's a good idea to have a petition on this? Because down the line, if anything goes wrong, they'll say, I didn't vote for this.
Right.
I didn't want this.
We did float the idea of a drain district petition. One, it's a very, very, very slow process. You got to go through Chapter 3, write a petition, get X number of signatures, have the engineer delineate where they think the possible route would be, come back with numbers, look it over again, then send, if that's agreed upon that it's possible to do, then they send it to a Chapter 4, which is, starts the BOD. All our, like Crooked Lake, when we had that petition, they had an existing drain, so you jump right to Chapter 8, and they write a petition that takes 12 signatures, and you move forward. Well, actually 5. So the people seem to think this is the best way to go. And also, if we created a drain district, it's going to be quite a bit more cost. And I think they did delineate if it was a drain district, I think it was about 1,600 acres. At this point, the special assessment districts captures almost 1,000 of it. So.
And this action is different than Upper Crooked Lake because this is a lake level action, not
yes.
a drain district action.
Correct, exactly. We're doing the special assessment district. It was set up in '69. We will have to update it because with, property changing hands and stuff, different uses of it, you gotta, bring that up to speed. I mean, that was the last good roll that Allegan had was from '98, and we're not comfortable with saying, oh, well, that's close enough, so.
So this is just gonna affect those properties touching the lake? Not like a drain district where?
Correct. It's not it will be the people that have already been set up by the courts as a special assessment district, people that benefit from the lake level, so.
Is this what they did in Duncan Lake too?
No, Duncan Lake, you talking about the Duncan Lake 2 or the original Duncan Lake intercounty? Duncan Lake is an intercounty drain.
Okay.
That goes in and goes out. They don't actually have a lake level even on Duncan Lake. They have the grades that are set by the surveyors to decide how the lake gets controlled.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions?
Have they been using the special assessment district for anything else like weed control?
No. Well, I take that back. We haven't been doing the weed control on that. I believe the township does. And theirs, I think, is just a little bit, well, I know it's a little different because we just talked to Ted DeVries, and he said one property owner called in and said, hey, I got 5 properties, but only one of them is on the lake. So the township opted to allow them to only charge for the one on the lake. We charge lakefront, we charge backlot, we charge use of it. And what the engineer said is if there's a public landing, then we can have a possible, the townships and or the county may be on the hook. And I don't know, like I say, our role is so old that, and we've used a special assessment district to pay for the augmentation pump that was put in '69. We just assessed them, I think, last year for that. That bill runs $22 a month for electric, so.
Okay, what, out of, you said there was roughly 350, 400 people there. Did your sign-in sheet indicate how many families that represented?
No, I don't know. Tammy's got the sign-in sheet, and it didn't break anything like that down. We got probably a third of the people signed in.
Okay.
They got there not realizing how many of the people there were. We started the meeting 15, 20 minutes late because we had a line all the way out the door at 6 o'clock because the people didn't realize what the turnout was going to be, so.
Well, but excuse me.
Oh, it's, I just wondered, because if 400 people could potentially be 200 families.
Exactly.
You got 440 families that weren't at the meeting.
Yep.
Is there any other follow-up mailings to let those families know that this project is going forward and our estimate is this, or is that not required?
No. We've had a few people that couldn't attend the meeting and asked for the paperwork that we presented that Dan did, and we told them, hey, as soon as we get everything put together, we can send it out. We'd be tickled to death to do that so that they at least understand what's going on.
Okay, let's say the price, for some reason easements don't go through and the plan is different and the price comes back at 10 million versus 3 million. Do they have an option at that point to thumbs down the project if it was 3 times as much as the initial estimate?
I don't believe so.
Or once it goes forward, are they pretty much saying that the assessment district is gonna pay whatever the price is?
As far as I know, that's the way it works. We don't have anything in there that says, go back to the people. And I mean, and rightfully so, because you could spend $400,000 and then have people say, we don't want to do anything. But we do also stand a chance that somebody can take this to court and say, we want this whole project stopped. You know,
As a lake property owner, if somebody wanted to take that action,
I don't know how that all shakes out, if they can or not. I mean, I'm sure with our court systems, the way they are, anybody can challenge anything at any time, so.
but there's some recourse if
Yeah,
there was
I
a
mean-
group of people that were adamantly opposed to it, so.
That's, to me, that's probably, I mean, they could petition the court to have it, I would expect to have it stopped, and then whatever cost we have into it at that point would be spread on the special assessment district.
Okay, based on all the reading I've done on this, Lake Michigan's high, all the Great Lakes are high, water levels are, the trend is for them to continue upwards or stay at this level for the next year or two before they start receding. At least that's the hydrologist estimates that they've
Yep.
talked about. So, Pine Lake has no other solution, especially long-term, but to move forward with something like this.
Yeah, if
They
they,
want to save this property.
it's a choice of that, or go through this now and do it again in 30 years, which happened in 93. They actually, Bob Schaefer didn't remember it, but according to the court records, the drain office was sued in 93 to make them act upon this. And that spent 5 years in the courts, and I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they did nothing. And eventually the water, maybe did recede some, so that people bought low houses again. But, I mean, that's, you know, like I say, that is possible on this. A drain project is not that way, but a lake level project, I would assume, could be stopped, you know, if somebody took it to court.
Okay.
Or at least file an injunction and drag it out a while, so.
I looked at M43 last night to change subject. That looks like it's dry. They're gonna continue to pump that down
Yes.
12 to 18 inches below the road grade.
We're gonna, Stu Kogi did a wetland delineation before we started, and he established where the water was when we started, where the wetland level is according to vegetation, and where the permanent water level is, which means, you know, most of the year, that's where the water is supposed to set at, and that's what we set our grade structure at. So once it gets down to that, there's no more pumping that can be done. I mean, according to the way we built the project. That way we didn't have to worry about, you know, somebody coming back and say, hey, wait a minute, you're impacting stuff. No, it's just a natural thing, dumps into one side, runs the other, and we pump.
Have
So,
they got it paved yet?
yes, yesterday Murray's was in there. We had a little trouble with that because typically it's a 4E1 mix, and we couldn't get 4E1, so they ended up getting 4E1 modified, and we had to have MDOT sign off before we can do that. But Murray's got in there, got it all cleaned up, it looks great. They were down pumping water from the west side to the east side because there's no culvert underneath there. According to drain records or MDOT records back in the 1800s, coming forward, there's never been a cross culvert in there. That will be part of our permanent solution down through there, so.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Commissioner Smucker?
Has Mr. Kelly been in on this lake level one? Has he looked at it?
Who's that?
Doug Kelly.
Doug Kelly.
Yeah, they were the ones that, like I say, the court, the whole thing went to the courts in 93. Judge Schuster looked it over and took away the high level. That went to the appeals court. The appeals court went back and had Progressive A&E do a study. They came up at that time with about $1 million cost, and the court said, well, we're not going to there was less than 5% of the homes were impacted at that time, not flooded, but just impacted. So the court said, well, we're not going to make the drain commissioner do it, so we're going to take the high water level off. Went back to another appeals court, then it went to another one, and finally in 98 they said, well, you know, there's not enough public health issue to set a permanent high lake level. So they just said 890.5 with seasonal variations. And even with Doug, we're double checking that to make sure we don't exceed the courts, because Lauren's version is they took off the high lake level, and if we put a system in that's going to set that, maybe we need the courts to give us a kudos on that. So that's Lauren's take on it. Doug's take on it. He's reviewing it right now again. So yeah, pretty in-depth stuff, and it's way above my pay grade.
Commissioner Parker?
Just out of curiosity, is with the warm weather that we've had, are you seeing any reductions at all?
The lakes that we're looking at, like Cloverdale Lake, we've been pumping for a week and a half, like David said, Commissioner Jackson said. That lake is down 3 inches from when we started pumping. I would expect a little bit of it's maybe because it hasn't been rained. Crooked Lake, when we started pumping, it was at 927.9, and then we got 5 inches of rain, so it jumped way up. And we're not even back to where it was before we started pumping. But I mean, the water is coming off. It's a godsend that the giant retention pond that we built back in there, the water is going down into the gravel, which gives us a lot. We were afraid that would be filled in 5 weeks. Right now, it's only, the level has come up 4 feet, and so we got 16 feet of water, or open space still to fill. So it's performing better than what our conservative estimate said, so.
How much have we spent of that 500,000?
The 500,000 plus the 400,000 we borrowed, we're, I believe, at about 750,000 of that is gone, out of 900,000. It's a slug of money.
Thank you, Jim.
Yep, any other questions? All right, I'll let you kids have fun with it.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Any other discussion? For the adoption of this resolution? Hearing none, the question before the board is the adoption of resolution 19-13, resolution for Pine Lake level excess spending authorization. The clerk will call the roll.
Smelter,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Gibson,
Yes.
Geiger,
Yes.
Wade.
Yes, the item is approved. Unfinished business, we have discussion on the board appointment process. Commissioner Geiger.
Yeah, Madam Chair, we had some discussion a couple weeks ago about the challenges with the Open Meetings Act and making it easier for people to apply to boards and commissions. So I've thought a lot about it and kind of brainstormed what's the solution where we can have a proper public meeting and make it less, how do we lower the temperature in the hot seat? So I think the solution is to have an application night where we host a night meeting and then all of our applicants for a specific period of time come to that meeting. And we take the pressure off the person in the hot seat by not making them do it themselves. We can interview like 3 or 4 people at the same time. They sit in the audience and they know the questions that are coming, you know. We can be a lot more efficient, and we could make things a lot less stressful for our applicants. So, if you had 5 minutes per applicant, and you have, 20 people show up, you could run 4 people every 15 minutes,
So are you,
3 or 4.
can I ask a question? So are you saying all of us would be there?
Yeah.
So we'd have experience in those appointments that they're gonna be asking about? And then we would probably speak up if we're familiar with that
Yeah.
board. So they're coming before the board anyway.
Yeah. I would suggest hosting it at the Titan Center, though.
Yeah, yeah. But they're coming before the board anyways. And then what happens from there?
Just our traditional process. No, let me go back. So we have, let's say we got 20 interviews in one meeting. So we'd run through all of the applicants, and then we'd have a discussion about where they'd like, where they could serve, where they best fit, and we make a recommendation. So it's kind of like an appointment workshop for the board or for the committee of the whole, as opposed to having these subcommittees.
Would we be like a panel? Is
Yeah.
that what you're thinking? So they'd ask us questions.
Yeah, I would hope it'd be a friendly conversation. I'm not gonna wear a suit and tie to it if this is approved. I would encourage us to dress down and just make it less,
Wear sandals and
wear sandals.
stuff.
It is a committee meeting, it's a lot less formal.
That was my question. Is this a regular committee of the whole meeting in the evening? Or is this a special meeting workshop?
That depends. I guess it's the chair's call. I think you could do both. If you don't have a lot, on the cow agenda, you could, bring them together. Maybe have the official business before and then, or before the time the applicants are supposed to show up.
Yeah, I really liked the way it was set up previously, where it was more informal, where you could almost make a friend and discuss things with them and see where they fit in there.
Yeah.
This seems to take it seems to add a layer to the same process we're already doing when you're bringing them into a meeting to interview, and then another meeting, even though it may not be as formal as
Yeah.
the cow. Just that I thought the purpose when we set out with this was to basically help steer people to the right committees and to find out answer their questions.
Right.
You know, make the whole process less intimidating, more warm and fuzzy, so to speak. You know, as we recruit people or look for people who want to serve on these boards. You know, so I think we're losing some of that.
Yeah, unfortunately, the legislature had to put that provision in the Open Meetings Act, so. My goal would be to have the least formal, friendliest committee of the whole meeting that we've had.
I think what you're describing sounds like a cross between a discussion meet like Farm Bureau or FFA would have, where
Right.
you discuss things, and the mixer that like Hello West Michigan has for recruiting candidates to work in industries in West Michigan and specifically Berry County. And that is a very relaxed atmosphere. Discussion meet is a little bit more formal. Everybody's on their best behavior to engage each other on the panel in discussion. But I think if we could tie it somehow to a committee of the whole meeting in the evening, I think it would be a whole lot more relaxed than making people take time off of work to come in the morning. And of course, you will get the one who works second shift that can't make it, but they're the ones that want to serve on the daytime meeting.
Right.
So do you make accommodations for them to come in and interview during a morning meeting? Yeah, you bet.
Right.
We have historically made accommodations for folks who can't be here. We even hired a animal shelter director, get the words right, after a Skype interview. So, I mean, we do things a little different once in a while, and I think if we start a process to try to make things better, I would be willing to entertain moving one of our committee meetings to the evening, even if it's a different day of the week. It does change our agenda issues and our timelines for that. So, Commissioner Parker.
Yeah, it does answer the question too. Did it work?
Yeah.
I mean, if it does, then maybe it should be a continuing situation.
Well, if we try it for
Maybe,
6 months and,
twice a year or 3 times a year or something like that.
I mean, we typically do interviews quarterly. I know we have an advertisement out currently, and we are looking at interviews for the first week in August. Do we want to entertain the thought of changing that meeting to the evening? I'm not sure if short notice like that is a good idea. But maybe later in the month or even in September, schedule one of our committee of the whole meetings for an evening session. The trick will be finding Titan available. It sometimes is tricky. The other part of that is we do not have video capability at Titan. And we have a lot of constituents that rely on watching us on the internet. It doesn't change our public meeting, it just changes the way that we have minutes, we don't have that video documentation of our meeting at Titan. We do have more seating capacity here than at Titan because strictly the number of chairs that are in that building. We have more chairs in here than they do there. So even though that's a much bigger space. We do have some challenges meeting in that building. But it is a little bit more congenial and less formal than this setting.
A couple of things. One, I think we should, let me go back. My intention was to have applicants from here on out use this strategy. So if we can postpone the interviews that are scheduled, we could move the interviews that are currently scheduled for like the next cow to this night meeting. I think that's the spirit of what my resolution was. Second, part of the reason that I proposed the Titan Center was because it's not being broadcast on the internet. Now, I'm the one who proposed the live stream. I'm proud of it. I'm proud this board uses it. But I don't want applicants to be worried or be concerned that, this videotape of my interview is going to be on the internet forever. Sometimes people don't have a good interview. And we don't videotape any of our other boards and commissions. So if we wanted to keep it up here, I would just say that we record it on sound like we used to do. I think that's fair to our volunteers.
Thoughts?
No, I'm game to try anything once, I don't know if we need a resolution to try it, do we?
Yes, because there's money tied to it.
Because we have to advertise and we have to probably create some different documents.
Right. The advertising budget that we have, the resolution that I proposed before, allows us to spend up to
Could you
$1,500.
set the meeting after you found out if you had applicants? If you set the meeting before, you might not have any to have the meeting.
Part of the,
There are quite a few applicants for the next interview cycle, which we're scheduling for the first part of August. I don't recall how many for which position.
Okay.
And we're trying to work on that ahead of time before it gets right down to, we gotta have interviews next week.
Well, I'd hate to see you set a meeting and nobody, not have any applicants, is what I thought.
Well, I do know that they're, is it planning or ZBA are down to a critical number. And that we need to get some appointments made to that committee so that they have, they can meet their quorum. So we do have tentatively interviews scheduled for the August 6th meeting.
But these aren't gonna be interviews though, are they? What are they gonna be?
I still believe we're gonna have to interview because we don't have a process in place for on that meeting that day, so that we can make an appointment on August 13th.
how about this? Can we just authorize the expenditure of the advertising budget for recruiting applicants, and then I can work with the chair after the meeting to see how many applications we have in so far. Maybe make a strategy of when it makes sense to schedule night meeting. I'm not opposed to doing a daytime meeting on the 6th. Hopefully we have a lot of applicants, but part of having a new application form is we don't want to turn people away that don't walk away with an appointment. We should be ready to say, hey, we don't have there's not enough seats for all of you that are here today, but we're going to talk about where you might fit.
Well, it seems to me 22 applicants is enough to try this thing. But what I'm concerned about is that they're still gonna be in front of us. I don't know how you're gonna avoid that.
I wish I had an answer for you.
Yeah, there's a certain point where I don't think you need to be handling them, holding their hands all the
Right.
time. I think some of it, as a board member, you have to have a little moxie in wanting to find out what's going on,
Right.
what's the budget, what's this, what's that, and to ask questions and that type of thing. And if they can't get over that part of it,
We could have a 15-minute, how about this? We advertise for a recruitment night. People come in, listen to a 15-minute presentation, they fill out their apps, and then they come apply, come before the board and say where they want to apply.
yeah, I was thinking that's what we're doing, is a preliminary type of thing, so they can find out more about the different boards and which ones they may lean towards after questions that they have.
But that's going to have to be a night meeting.
What if we do a
Well,
night
that's right.
meeting and we schedule from 6 to 7, the informal discussion on the boards and the educational, and we talk to candidates and stuff before our official meeting. Call the meeting at 7 o'clock, and then do our business and interview whomever shows up for that meeting.
That's a good
We've had
idea.
the opportunity to educate them. It's a public meeting. It's advertised. We're not making decisions outside of the meeting. We then call the meeting at 7 or 7:30, depending on our socialization and how well we've educated our applicants, and then make appointments after that, or make recommendations to the board after that, because the committee of the whole does not make appointments.
Is there any thought to controlling how long the terms last so that we only have to do this a couple times a year then? With the committees that we
Well,
have?
some of our, the vacancies that we have on some of our boards were not forecasted. We've had some people resign due to health issues. We've had people move.
Okay.
And so, once in a while, you have to fill a position midterm.
You don't have a control of that happening?
No, we work with people, and people are unpredictable. So, if we would move around the whole Open Meetings Act if we did this. We scheduled the committee meeting before the committee of the whole, and it's the committee of the whole meeting with everybody, and we're not excluding any commissioner from the education session. We're all there, we're all gonna be there for the 7 o'clock meeting, or however we choose to schedule it. I don't wanna be in a meeting till 10 o'clock at night. I get up at 4. But having an evening meeting is something that our constituents have all asked for.
Yeah.
And if we schedule one quarterly to do interviews, and we plan accordingly, then maybe that's something that,
Could the
I don't know what night's gonna work for everybody, because I don't even know if the first Tuesday of the month is open at Titan. I haven't looked at their calendar. I don't know what's gonna work best. I do know that on the 6th, though, we have interviews that we're looking at.
I know, some of us have other meetings the Tuesday nights too.
I agree. I have a couple of Tuesday night meetings myself, and, if it's a quarterly thing, our other committees may have to
Yeah.
accommodate our absence. If it was every Tuesday night that we
I
could,
think it
every
would
month.
be nice too if the budget included punch and cookies. or
Yeah,
something like that.
That's a
Yeah,
big
it's-
part of it too.
Or crackers and cheese or whatever.
So we could do, I think 6 o'clock is a little too early. I don't want to get home before 6. And I work in Lansing, so 6:30 to 7:30, open house / information session,
Meet and greet.
meet and greet. People,
You have to post it with the meeting being at 7:30 separately?
Yeah, if
If
you're gonna
all-
call a business
Because I think
meeting,
in a half hour, you might have everything done.
but you still got to interview the people.
you would have to interview them during committee of the whole.
Yeah.
Well,
6:30 to 7, information session. 7 o'clock, we start interviews.
Well, something else that we haven't done in the past that we could consider adding to this plan, because I know we've had people, when there were openings in the animal shelter board, people applied for it, but the interviews weren't for a couple months until afterwards. So when those interviews come in, that might be a good time if administration could kick those out to the commissioners in charge of that board. How nice would it be to pick up the phone and call them and say, hey, I've got your application. Wanted to introduce you to the animal shelter board, why you applying, can I answer any questions, whatever the case is. And at least, hey, the interviews aren't scheduled yet, but we'll be in contact, or we're gonna have a informational, session at some point like that as well. You may be able to talk to some candidates and find out, what their specialty is. And again, it's not for a recommendation, a thumbs up or thumbs down. It's just to get a feel for what they're looking for, how they're connected to the board, and maybe is there another spot for them, so.
So
We're
recruit,
venturing off the path here a little bit, but,
But
yeah, not too far. I mean, we need good ideas, and that's part of it. It's just picking up the phone and saying, hey, I got a spot that I think you might be good at.
So we postponed this resolution till today. Do we still need time to do some legwork and write, what we've discussed today into a form? Or would you like to postpone until the
We can start.
23rd?
We can
for-
start advertising. No, we need to start getting word out there. As soon as we have a meeting scheduled, a night meeting, we can start recruiting people to come to it. So I think you can gut the resolution, except for the money part, and then it'll just be more kind of a consensus-driven
Okay,
policy.
so I'm looking at the resolution. There is, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th paragraph is already deleted. So if we delete the 3rd and 4th paragraphs, that takes care of the format that we were not in agreement on, and it just leaves the budget. So the resolution to reform the citizens appointment process, I'm gonna need a motion for the amendment, but I will read it as as amended. So would somebody like to make the motion to amend?
Motion.
Geiger, motion to amend by deleting the 3rd and 4th paragraph. Is there support? Or do you want me to read it first? Motion Geiger, Jackson, support. So whereas Berry County needs qualified, dedicated individuals to serve on numerous boards and commissions, and whereas the current strategy of recruiting and interviewing applicants does not produce the number of applicants desired and creates numerous challenges for the Board of Commissioners, be it therefore resolved that this resolution shall take effect upon its adoption and shall expire on March 10th, 2020. Be it further resolved that the funds from the Board of Commissioner advertising budget may be used for materials and advertising related to implementing this strategy, with the strategy to be written
You can,
or formulated and approved on July 23rd.
so
Is there discussion? Okay.
so the consensus is that I'm feeling we have to have a properly posted meeting. It's the law, and we want to do everything We want to play our cards face up, but we want to make it easier for people to apply. So we're going to have an informational session with punch and cookies, tell them about the opportunities where they can serve in county government, have an interview session that is less intimidating, where we have more than one individual sit up there at a time. And then the Board of Commissioners listen to all of the applicants and find out, make suggestions where they might serve.
So only applicants are gonna be invited to this?
No,
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I mean, if you post it as a public meeting so that anybody who's thought about being on a board or been approached could come
Oh, okay.
and learn more about it.
Okay.
And, you know,
So they'd
with
have to just wait
technology,
and
we
do the
could- they
next, okay.
they could interview that day if they had their applications and stuff already submitted. And with technology, they could submit one while we were talking.
so this is my vision. You have a person that doesn't know anything about county government, but they have time and they want to volunteer. So they come to this session, they learn about county government, and then they just tell a little bit about themselves with a few other folks. They say, I don't know what all these boards do, but this is what I can do. This is my schedule. I can't do morning meetings. I could do night meetings. And then we take it from there. We say, well, this person is skilled in, they have a passion for animals. You might want, we have a vacancy upcoming on the Animal Shelter Advisory Board. We can put them in there. We can make a recommendation there. If they're skilled with Wi-Fi or broadband, appointing them to the broadband board. They might not even know it exists, but it's our jobs as commissioners just to move them into the proper place, or the most common sense place.
Is that gonna work out with your secretary and your security in the evening?
We have meetings in the evening already. We would just have to get with the posse to make sure that there's a member that can serve that evening.
I don't think we'd use screeners. When we've had night meetings here before, we just don't have the screeners. Also, you could have the first part of the night in the Tyden Center, and you could have the formal discussion and action up here in this room, and have that broadcast.
And then you gotta post 2 locations and.
I'm just saying.
Any other discussion?
Have you ever thought about a Saturday when nobody's working to have one of those meetings?
That's gonna go over like a lead balloon.
I'm just,
Hey, kids, do you want to come in on a Saturday?
well, you're looking for
Yeah.
people to come in. The
Yeah.
best day is a day that when nobody's working.
Yeah,
And those
it
are
works.
the days they catch up on all their honeydews and family obligations too. So I'm not sure that a Saturday is a great time commitment, so.
I agree.
I'm free on Saturdays. It works for me, but
Any other discussion? So the question before the committee is to amend the resolution to reform the citizens appointment process. All those in favor, do I need a roll call for that?
No.
Resolution?
Is it a resolution?
no, it's amendment.
Or an amendment?
An
to the
amendment, you do not need a roll call.
Okay, so
The
all those in
resolution-
favor of amending the resolution to reform the citizen appointment process, please say aye.
Aye?
Opposed, nay?
Aye.
Okay. So it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 1.
So was your
So
aye a
it is-
nay?
Yeah, that was a nay.
Okay.
So we've amended the resolution. Now, on the resolution, as amended, whereas Berry County needs qualified, dedicated individuals to serve on numerous boards and commissions, and whereas the current strategy of recruiting and interviewing applicants does not produce the number of applicants desired and creates numerous challenges for the Board of Commissioners, be it resolved that this resolution shall take effect upon its adoption and shall expire on March 10th. Be it further resolved that funds from the BOC advertising budget may be used for materials and advertising related to implementing this strategy. Does that sound all right? Do we need to add anything else to it? All right, all those, the clerk will call the roll.
Jackson,
Yes.
Connor. Parker,
Yes.
Gibson,
Yes?
Smelter,
No?
and Geiger.
Yes.
And Wings.
Yes. The resolution is approved. All righty. New business. I lost my minute, or my agenda. All righty, we have none. County Administrator's Report.
I'm all set, thank you.
Oh, mercy.
Oh,
It's time. Chairperson's Report.
Fire drill.
It is that time of year. On Thursday, I will be relocating my temporary dwelling to, is it Irving Township? I'm moving to the fairgrounds. So, I will live locally for, it's Rutland Township, excuse me.
It's Rutland.
I can't keep track of that. Maybe next year I'll remember. So be mindful, we have a lot of families moving in and around the county. They are in a hurry because they're not on time, because everything that has to go with fair never goes according to schedule. So your families are moving, they're taking animals, they're taking everything but the kitchen sink to the fairgrounds. They are excited, they are nervous, and please be patient with them. On the other hand, we also have a lot of vendors moving in and around, a lot of equipment, and we already know that the traffic out in that neck of the woods is not the greatest. So be patient with everyone as we get excited about the Berry County Fair. I'm most of the way through my meeting cycle. I do not have community action this month. I'm probably going to miss a meeting tonight in Baltimore Township. We have some obligations for one of our fair projects that commence at 5 o'clock in Byron Center. So it's one of those things, when you commit, you commit. I can't think of anything else that's pressing that I've been working on. I did get to share that piece of information from MDOT. I did get communication from Commissioner Connor, and she is very happy to oblige going to the MERS conference. So I don't think I have anything else from her. So with that, and I know she's not here to give a report. She's kind of been a little out of commission. I did receive news that everything went well, and she's in the process of healing. So with that, Commissioner
I'm all set.
Gibson. Commissioner Smelker?
I'm just starting my meeting cycle, so I have nothing to report.
July 16th.
Commissioner Geiger?
I'm all set. Are you, is it my week to go to Hastings Township? Okay,
It's your turn.
all right.
Commissioner Parker?
Yes, I get to go to Yankee Springs meeting, and Thursday, Vivian can't make it, so. And I got Village of Middleville tonight, and I got an LDFA meeting coming up here too, so. I understand last night at the township meeting, which I could not make, I really wanted to be there. Walt Evie was supposed to be getting a surprise. They were gonna name the new section of the cemetery after him, because he has worked so hard on all those graves and that too, so. It's a real honor, because he just loved that, and he worked there 35 years or so, so,
Been on that committee forever.
yeah. That's about it.
Commissioner Jackson?
Just getting started, so I'm all set. Thank you.
All right. I do have one more thing. We will not be meeting on July 16th. There is nothing for our agenda, nothing pressing that we have to deal with. We will go straight to Board of Commissioner meeting on July 23rd. So enjoy next week, and have a week off in the middle of July.
Whoa.
Wow.
win.
So,
Just think how close you were too to the meeting from the fair.
yeah, I would have been really, really close, but I probably would have been in the doghouse because it's the fair and that's the day that we show.
I was gonna say that, but didn't.
So, limited public comment at this time. Is there any member of the public wishing to address the board? You may do so for up to 3 minutes. And we do have Sheriff Leaf here finally.
Finally. It was a long meeting. I just got the June stats for law enforcement and corrections. And also I've got the June from 911. Our deputies are out there taking over 40% of the calls out there from dispatch. And that's all the police agencies combined. So they're real busy out there. If you get a chance, take a look at what they're doing per township. And the numbers are pretty impressive with our guys being able to handle that much. Plus, they're doing, take about 30% of all the traffic stops out there, so keeping us safe on the roads. Correction staff has booked in and processed 273 persons into the jail for the month of June, and additionally released 210 back into the community. Of the 273 persons booked, 58 bookings classified as weekenders. The daily average inmate population is down to 74. Staff has transported 77 inmates to various locations, which include the court, medical facilities, and other counties. In addition, we have administered 58 weekend drug screens for the sobriety courts for Tammy Price. Kitchen staff prepared 6,571 meals at the cost of $1.30 per meal. 2019, 273 bookings. In 2014, there was 230. Releases, there was 210 in 2019, and 5 years ago, 2014, was 224. And public fingerprints was 72 versus the 89 back in 2014. In June, for the law enforcement, we logged 903 complaints. For 70 of those individuals were arrested, resulting in 25 felony arrests and 50 misdemeanor charges. 48 citations were issued. There were 14 alcohol-related arrests. 68 accidents were handled, 1 fatality. 30 accidents involved deer, and 6 involved alcohol. The K-9 unit activated on 3 occasions this time, and again got some drugs and tracked some people down. This office performed 61 home checks, assisting swift and sure sobriety and drug courts. And it was nice, Tammy brought in, I have a yearly meeting with my staff, and my staff doesn't get to see the end results of these checks that they're doing and the drug screens. So she brought in, it was 5, wasn't it? 5 people that come on in that actually have graduated and doing well. And it was a nice morale boost for us, so thanks, Tammy, for doing that. 508 criminal histories were run for warrant entry and warrant request. There were 78 sex offender transactions completed and 380 PBTs, that's a preliminary breath test, were administered as a result of a court order. So in 2019, we handled 784 complaints. 2014 was 618. Accidents handled, 2019, 68, 2014, 57. Of those accidents, a car deer, there's 30 versus 26. Arrest, 2019, there's 70, 25 felony and 50 misdemeanor. In 2014, there was 50, 23 felony and 30 misdemeanor. And alcohol-related arrests, there's 14 versus 2014, there was 6. So, any questions?
The recent fatality with somebody driving into a pond at 79 and 37, is there a guardrail up there, or did they go through it?
I drive by that every day, I don't know.
Yeah. Neither do I.
I don't think so. No? All right. All right. We're also paying $1,100 a week for the chiller. We had to rent a chiller. If we didn't do that with this hot and humid weather, we'd probably get lawsuits on Eighth Amendment violations for cruel and unusual punishment. It gets hot in there. And also we're looking at doing bids out for the parking lot. We've got holes in the parking lot now that I call them ankle breakers. We got them out in the back where our employees walk in and out. Now we're starting to get them up towards the front and where the public comes in and out. So we're gonna have to do something about that soon. The back steps, work on getting bids. The back steps for where the employees going in and out, they're starting to cave in. They're starting to crack really bad. There's washout underneath. You can see when you get a heavy rain, that bunch of that dirt and sand goes out into the parking lot. So, got to work on that. Then back in our mechanical room, the floor is cracked and it's starting to settle. So when we have water leaks in there, it doesn't go to the drain, it goes to the corners. And we got about a 3/4 inch to maybe 1 inch gap from the wall to the floor in there. So just give you an update, some of the most recent stuff that's happening in there. So, any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment this morning?
Rick Moore, Shelton Park Board. I apologize for missing last week. I understand Dan was here and got some people to sign up for the pancake breakfast on Saturday, but as a multiple property owner, sewage problems always trump everything. So I finally got a new sewer line installed with new technology. It's pretty amazing. But I'm looking forward to seeing most of you, or some of you, at the Shelton Park event. I know there's a lot of things going on with the Dawn Patrol. My dad used to be assistant manager at the airport, and I miss not being able to go to dawn patrols anymore. And with Art Mead's celebration, it seems like the summer is just jammed full of stuff to go to and see. But I hope you all take advantage of the benefits you have in the jewel of Shelton Park and the hard work that the Steam Club members, as well as the staff at Shelton Park, put in to make this steam show quite an event. It's getting harder and harder to have steam shows with steam engines because the old men that own them and drive them are dying off, and they need to be certified every 3 years on a regular basis to make sure they're safe, because otherwise you've got a 4,000-pound tea kettle blowing up in your face, and none of us want that. But it's very important to see how things occurred in the past and how much farming has improved in the last few generations than in the old days with teams of horses. So take care this weekend. Like it has been said, there's an awful lot of traffic on the road, and you don't have to drive drunk to drive stupid. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Any other further public comment?
Olivia Wing, Assyria Township. So this, from the 15th to the 20th, is the 167th annual Berry County Fair. And since you guys don't have a meeting on Tuesday, you should come watch me show pigs. It's really, really hard to get your pig to walk right, and watching all the kids with their projects and all the hard work they've put into it is really something interesting to see. And if you don't like animals, they have the Expo Center, which has all the crafts everyone's worked on, along with the mandatory notebooks that we have to have in order to sell and show animals at the fair. It's really interesting to see how hard these kids work in order to provide for themselves in the future. This money goes into funds to buy cars, to go to college, and the intellectual stuff that goes. You learn so much from fair. It's incredible. How to work with people, how animal health is taken care of, how everything in this world works. It's really something fun to see, and they also have rides and food, which is another helpful thing.
Thank you, ma'am.
She can outtalk you, Heather.
Top that.
Tough act to follow, for sure. Bob Vanderbilt, Hastings Township. I have the latest Tower Pinkster report and the 2015 Master Plan report here, and I'm looking them over. And this latest thing by Tower Pinkster seems to be way overboard, in my opinion. And not only from a money standpoint, but the time frame that it would take to implement all that they're suggesting here. And I think we have a much less expensive route that we can travel, and a much quicker relief for COA. And I guess I look at it as a relief for COA, not necessarily pie in the sky, but certainly an improvement for COA, and cost-effective to the taxpayers of the county. So I hope that you all will dig much deeper into this and look at it from that, not only a fiscal standpoint, but a time frame standpoint. And because, at 75, I'm not far from COA probably, so keep it up.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment this morning?
Ben Eastman, Hastings Township. I just wanted to let everybody know at 4:30 today at Hastings Middle School, there's going to be a meet and greet for the new superintendent. So if you have a chance to meet him, Mr. Dan Remenap. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment? Is there any other business to come before this board? There being no further business and without objection, the board will now adjourn.
No.